This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot of stuff to get into today, no doubt about it. We are a little bit over 24 hours away from Game 1 of the NBA Finals, Part 4. The Cleveland Cavaliers, led by the great LeBron James, up against Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and a reigning defending NBA champion Golden State Warriors, winners of 2 of the last 3 NBA championships. Cleveland won the other one. This is the 4th consecutive year these teams will be going up against one another. The 2nd consecutive year Kevin Durant will be going up against LeBron James. And that is definitely something that we're going to get into from a variety of angles. We want to talk about Kevin Durant going up against LeBron James. We want to talk about Kevin Durant and some of the words that he has to say, and whether or not you think those words are profound and accurate and good, or is it the very thing that's holding him back from being the elite superstar that we know him to be, but still salivate at the possibilities because we also know he could be so much more. We'll be talking about that. I want to know whether it's a bigger loss. Who's the bigger loss in your eyes, Andre Iguodala or Kevin Love, for their respective teams? I want to highlight and evaluate this matchup, hook, line, and sinker. But before I do that, I got to touch on the biggest story going on, arguably, in the world of sports today. Have y'all seen this story about Sixers president, Brian Colangelo? The Philadelphia 76ers announced today that they are investigating a report by The Ringer linking several Twitter accounts to the 76ers president of basketball operations, Brian Colangelo. In February, I'm reading from an article here. In February, The Ringer received an anonymous tip that Brian Colangelo, the 76ers president of basketball operations, had been secretly operating 5 Twitter accounts. Since then, they scrutinized and archived those accounts in an attempt to verify the source's claims that the longtime NBA executive has been using them as a platform for several reasons. A, to criticize NBA players, including his own Joel Embiid, Jahlil Okafor, Nerlens Noel. Number 2, to publicly debate the decisions of his own coaching staff, as well as critique former Sixers general manager Sam Hinkie and Toronto Raptors president Masai Ujiri, who was his successor. Remember, Brian Colangelo is a 2-time executive of the year, ladies and gentlemen. He was an executive of the year in 2004-2005 season, and then again in 2006-2007. He was executive of the year. One time, the first go-round was with the Phoenix Suns, where he was at from 1994 to 2006. And the second go-round was when he went to Toronto in 2006 and was there until 2013. So Masai Ujiri is his successor. And now he's been with the 76ers since April 10th, 2016. This is a 2-time executive of the year that we're talking about here. 2-time executive of the year. They're also saying that in these same tweets, they telegraphed the 2017 trade in which the Sixers acquired the number 1 overall pick that would become Markelle Fultz. And last but not least, disclosing non-public medical information about Jahlil Okafor and gossip about Joel Embiid and Fultz to members of the national and Philadelphia media. Now, that last part is not that big of a deal to me. Executives talk off the record all the time about players. That is absolutely true. And there isn't an executive alive that can act like that's not true. They all do it. So I'm not going to hold Colangelo too accountable. If you got a comment about Joel Embiid, if you got a comment about Jahlil Okafor, so what? That part I'm not going to stress, because as an executive for a team, you're scrutinized constantly. You're questioned constantly. And people are always asking you stuff about your players. You usually get in trouble if you comment about another team's player. You don't get in trouble for commenting about your own. And a lot of times you got to guard what you say and how it's going to be interpreted, because you still have to executive these teams. So as a result, you are talking to the media in some ways off the record. That's a given, and the executive that denies it is lying through their teeth. I know this as a fact. You ain't just listening to a radio host. You're listening to a reporter for the last 25 years. I'm telling you what I know. And of those 25 years, I was a beat writer for 15. I'm telling you what I know. This is how it goes. So that last part, let me take that back. I'm not talking about the non-public medical information. That's not what I'm talking about. You don't disclose that. I'm talking about the gossip about Embiid and Fultz. I wasn't talking about non-public medical information. No, that's not something that gets leaked like that. That's not true. Unless it's something minor, you got an ankle or a knee injury or whatever, but it's not as bad as has been reported or something like that. Yeah, that's it. But the gossiping about players to the national and local media, oh, please, that happens all the time. There's nothing to say, nothing to write home about that in that regard. But this other stuff, this is big. Telegraphing picks, debating decisions of your own coaching staff, critiquing a predecessor and a successor on your job. That's a big deal. Criticizing your own players and getting excessive with it, particularly, listen, guys that are on your team, no. Some of this stuff is abnormal. And in the interest of full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, I spoke to Brian Colangelo early today. Actually, we texted one another. He categorically and emphatically denies that he had anything to do with this. He had one other account, and it was at PHILA for Philly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And he said that account was only used to read. He apparently used accounts to praise his own work and take shots at players. This is what they're saying about him. He is categorically denying that. Let me say this. Brian Colangelo could be somewhat sensitive at times. There's no doubt about that. But Brian Colangelo has not been one to excoriate folks behind their back. He'll give you his perspective about things. He'll talk to you off the record about his belief in what he's doing and why he may have made some decisions that he may have made. That he will do. But to excoriate a predecessor or someone who succeeded him at his job, that's not the Brian Colangelo I know. To take shots at his own players, that's not the Brian Colangelo that I know. I don't know that person. And I've been covering this league for almost 25 years. Almost my entire time as a journalist, with the exception of the first 2 years I've been associated with the NBA. That's not the Brian Colangelo I know. He has never done that with me. But I will tell you, this does not look good. It doesn't look good at all. A matter of fact, it looks very, very bad. It looks very, very bad. (888) say ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Our own Adrian Wojnarowski, insider extraordinaire on the NBA for ESPN, formerly of Yahoo. He obviously was getting reaction from around the NBA about Brian Colangelo today and being associated with this mess. Listen to Adrian Wojnarowski and what he had to say.
Executives, coaches, players, people are stunned. We're stunned at the story, and And I think the potential consequences, if this does indeed bear out to be Brian Colangelo behind these other accounts, I think the consensus is he could probably have survived comments about other executives with other teams, maybe even his own coach. But to put but if he said those things about his franchise star Joel Embiid, as one executive said to me, I know I wouldn't survive that in my job.
No, Wojnarowski went on. What Embiid told him about the Colangelo story, because obviously Woj is going to get a comment from Joel Embiid. Listen to this.
Embiid told me that Brian Colangelo reached out to him yesterday, told him that he didn't say those things about him, told him he denied the story, and Embiid, said to me that he'll believe Colangelo until proven otherwise, but with the caveat, if true, that would be really bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, I could not have said it better myself. I'm going to emphasize this again. I've pretty much known Brian Colangelo for, not personally on that level. I'm just talking about as a reporter. Speaking to him infrequently, speaking to him enough times over the years, having to report on his teams and some of the deals he may have made, some of the deals he may have missed out on making, et cetera, et cetera. Let me be very, very clear about what I'm about to say. Brian Colangelo deserves the benefit of the doubt. But that's all. Meaning that devoid of any proof, there's really nothing we can say. He deserves the benefit of the doubt. But if it is found to be true that Brian Colangelo was taking shots at his own players and his own coaches, he has to go. There's no other way around it. You can't survive a story like this. Not like this. You got to go. I would love to sit up there and tell you otherwise, but I am telling you here, as sure as I'm standing here right now, I am telling you, Brian Colangelo better not be guilty of this. Better not be guilty of this. If he's guilty of this, you can't keep him around. Disclosing non-public medical information about a player? Using a what is it? A boner account? What is it called? These burner account. I don't know what I'm gonna say. Burner account. A burner account like, listen, KD got away with it. He's a player. At the end of the day, he gets to go out there and hoop, period. But when you're an executive, you're held to a higher standard. You're a grown man. Brian Colangelo turns 53 June 1st. His father is an icon in basketball circles. Do y'all understand that? Let me repeat that word again. Icon. Jerry Colangelo. This is a man that's the former owner of the Phoenix Suns. This is a man that's been on various committees for the NBA. This is a man that's the managing director for USA Basketball. This is a man that when it comes, I'm only pure. I don't know in this day and age, you gotta qualify everything because you don't know what the hell is going on behind closed doors and stuff like that. But as it pertains to the sport of basketball, Jerry Colangelo is an iconic figure. Iconic. He speaks, you listen. He's that big time. He's always welcome on this show. I revere that man. I like Brian. I revere Jerry Colangelo. There is a standard that comes associated with this man. And to be his son, hell, you held to a higher standard. Because that's your daddy, whose reputation precedes him as an astute basketball mind with incredible integrity when it comes to the sport of basketball. So you're not just, if your name is Colangelo, look, the only way you're not held to the standard that Jerry said is if you can prove there's no bloodline. If your name is Colangelo, you need to come out and prove we have no relation whatsoever. We're not relatives. We're not distant relatives. Nothing. Because if your name is Colangelo, there is a standard that comes along with that name because of Jerry. And to be associated with this would be pretty close to career suicide. Adrian Wojnarowski didn't lie to you. The executive that said to him, I know I wouldn't have survived it. You're damn right he wouldn't. In today's day and age, with these players and the power of social media and the fact that everybody has a voice, especially those who are high profile and Joel Embiid would qualify, let me tell you something. This is not good. Now, I want to repeat. Brian Colangelo told me he had nothing to do with this. He's got that one burner account at Philly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it. He has nothing to do with this. I am telling you, he deserves the benefit of the doubt. But that's it. I think it's fair to assume he's innocent, but still investigate, like the Sixers are doing. And if it is found that Brian Colangelo did this, Sixers are going to fire him. It's too embarrassing. It's too incendiary. It's too much to overcome. Can't overcome this. If you're an executive and you did this, you're not overcoming this in this day and age. It's just not happening. It ain't quite Donald Sterling with his little kitty cat tricks for kids mistress. It ain't quite that. All right, there's no tape recorder or anything like that. That's true. It's not that. But it's bad nonetheless. It really, really is. And there is no way around that. I wish there was, but there is not. Brian Colangelo has to get to the bottom of this if he's innocent. He has to get to the bottom of this. Can't let this languish around. Can't let this simmer. He's not an owner. He's an executive. He's employed by the Sixers. And by the way, he's coming off a season in which Philadelphia did well. But the glaring omission was the fact that Jason Tatum, who could have easily been the Sixers pick, ended up being Boston's. And he was on the court for them. Sixers have the 3rd overall pick in last year's NBA draft. Boston had the number 1 pick. Boston swapped picks with Philadelphia, plus got a first rounder from Philadelphia after convincing Philadelphia, a.k.a. Brian Colangelo, we're going to take Markelle Fultz with the first overall pick. And Colangelo wanted Fultz badly. So he moved up to get him and forfeited a first rounder to do it. And look at Jason Tatum and how he's balling. And look at how Markelle Fultz did not. So that was glaring in and of itself. And that made this summer even that much more important to acquiring LeBron James. Because you had to you had to use that cap space and get somebody to join Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. And if it ain't LeBron James, it's got to be Paul George. And if you're the Philadelphia 76ers, a team that I covered for a decade, a city that I rode in for 17 years. Let me tell you something right now. You're worried. If Colangelo had something to do with this, that this is the kind of story that could dissuade a marquee free agent from coming to play for you. Which is why they're probably investigating with the quickness and trying to get to the bottom of this so they can make sure that if indeed this is true, we handle it expeditiously. This is not a joke. This is a huge story. And it's not going away until we get to the bottom of it. It's just the truth. No other way around it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I believe Brian Colangelo for the moment. What about you? You think he's telling the truth? Better question would be, whether it's true or not, do you feel a hefty price should be paid for such a transgression like this? Inquiring minds want to know. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We'll get to your phone calls on this matter. We'll talk about the conference finals, and I'm also planning to talk to my man, the two-time NBA champion, the NCAA champion, one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history, the Hall of Famer. His name is Isiah Thomas. Hopefully he'll be on with yours truly next as well. Right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
I'm a one-trick pony, literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter when Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la, aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
As promised, on the line with me right now, an NCAA champion at Indiana, a two-time champion with the Bad Boy Pistons, one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. The one and only Isiah Thomas is on the line with us right now. What's going on, man? How are you?
I am good. I'm ready for some straight talk and a little credit karma.
Ain't nothing wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Need both. Believe it or not. But you know what, Isiah? We're gonna get into these finals because there's very few better to talk to than you about these games that are coming up and what we witnessed in the conference finals. But I'd be remiss in neglecting to at least ask you. Don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know you've heard the story. All of us in the NBA community have heard this story about this burner account, this Twitter account, allegedly by Brian Colangelo. He says that he doesn't have a burner. He only had one, and that wasn't him, and it's totally false what's being put out there, whatever. What are you hearing in the NBA community about this story? And at least give us this. How big of a story is this in your eyes if an executive has a burner account and allegedly is criticizing his own players, coaches, predecessors, successors, etc.? What do you make of all of that?
It was a talk all last night. It's been a talk here this morning. I'm actually in San Francisco at the Warriors facility, and that's all anyone is talking about. And it is a big deal. I think all of us will probably have to follow what Joel Embiid has said. And what Embiid said is that he hopes it's not true, but if it is true, then it's bad. This isn't, anytime you have an executive going this far, if that's what happened, it's not a good thing.
Gotcha. Isiah Thomas right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Let's get into these finals. We've got Cleveland. We've got Golden State. Isiah, I got to admit to you, I'm looking forward to the finals because you got the greatest player in the world going up against a three-headed monster or a four-headed monster in Golden State, the reigning defending NBA champions, however you want to look at it, with KD, Clay, Steph, and, of course, Draymond Green. But something is missing. And I think for me, it's the fact that Cleveland got here without having to go against Kyrie. And Golden State got here with CP3 going down in Game 6 and 7. What are your thoughts about that based on what this matchup being what it is, based on what you saw in those NBA conference finals?
I think we all can say if Kyrie was healthy and playing, then the Celtics probably would be in the finals right now, considering how LeBron's supporting cast really played, and we know the type of player that Kyrie Irving is. And I would venture to say if Chris Paul would have played and would have been healthy in that Game 6, I do think that I do think that Houston being up 17 on the road against Golden State, I think they would have closed them out with Chris Paul because he's such a great floor general, and he really understands how to control tempo. I think they would have cut down on their turnovers. I don't think Golden State would have had as big of third quarter as they ended up having. But I think Chris Paul, his understanding of control and tempo, being at home and on the road with a 17 and a 14-point lead, I just think he being the quarterback of a team in that situation, in a game 6 and a game 7, he would not have let his team lose.
So you so you're not exactly echoing Eric Gordon's comments that, too bad we didn't have our guy. I thought he was alluding to game 7. You're alluding to game 6. You're saying if Chris Paul had been healthy with that 17-point lead, there would not have been a game 7. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. I think as great a point guard as he is, and as great a brain as he has, I know myself, and I consider him and a lot of others in this class. We all kind of in the same boat when it comes to controlling the game and understanding how to manage a game. And when you got a 17-point lead on the road as a game manager, you understand how to manage the clock, how to control tempo, how to get to the foul line, and not let that team back in the game, and not having the game manager that he is. I think it cost him in the game 6.
Isiah Thomas right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. So with that being said, how much, if at all, should James Harden be let off the hook when you consider what transpired in Game 7? He had 32, but it was on 29 shots. He shot 2 of 13 from three-point range. The team shot 7 of 44 from three-point range, which was obviously very alarming and only 15%. I didn't think that James Harden brought his A game, but I didn't think he choked either. There are many others that are much, much harsher about James Harden today in light of Houston losing that series. What do you say to that?
James Harden alone is not enough to beat Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant and Draymond Green. I mean, Harden could have had the game of his life, and those 4 guys combined as basketball players, when they bring their A game, they were going to beat Houston if Houston didn't have Paul. So I thought Harden showed up. I thought he played as well as he possibly could during that period of time. And, you miss shots. I mean, that's part of the game. The fact that he was able to have his team come out and compete at such a high level in a Game 7 without, one of their best players and be up 14 at home, it only speaks to, he's not as great a game manager as a Chris Paul is. Harden scores the basketball. He, probably, will be voted as MVP of the league, but he's not the management part of the game is not what he does. And that's what Chris Paul was brought there to do. And unfortunately, he wasn't there to do it.
We're talking to Isiah Thomas, the great Isiah Thomas, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. So with that being said, we've got an NBA Finals matchup, Zeke. And that NBA Finals matchup is the reigning defending NBA champions, winners of 2 of the last 3 NBA titles, going up against the only man who has beaten them, which is LeBron James, universally recognized as the greatest player on the planet right now. What kind of problems, considering what you saw from Golden State in the Western Conference Finals against Houston, what kind of problems is LeBron going to cause them that they never had to think about with James Harden?
Well, he'll cause the same kind of problems that he's caused for them in the last 3 years. He hasn't been short on scoring the basketball, rebounding the basketball, and assisting the basketball. He's had, historical numbers in the finals the last 3 years against this Golden State team. And I do think that, his numbers will equal that. Now, will we get better play out of Hill? Will we get better play out of Green? Will we get better play out of Clarkson? I believe that those guys will play better in the finals than they played in the Eastern Conference Finals and even in the second round. I look at Ty Lue as a coach and what he's able to do game plan-wise. These 2 teams know each other. The coaching staffs know each other. So I look at LeBron coming back from a 3-1 deficit, and I'm giving Cleveland a shot to win this title.
Really?
I'm not like everybody else saying that, it's 1,000 to 1. I think Cleveland's got a shot to come in and play well and win.
Look, I'm like a little brother to you, man. We're tight. I can say this to you. You've been getting on me about this, and I've been getting on you about this because guess what, Zeke? You said the same thing last year. You gave him a shot last year.
They had a shot.
And you're giving them a shot. You're giving them a shot. Come on, Zeke. I mean, how in God's name can they pull this off? How can this happen?
Well, when you look at it mathematically, it's almost impossible. But LeBron James makes the impossible possible, and that's why you have to give them more than a puncher's chance because. Stephen A., what I saw him do in Game 7 against Boston, and I'm not getting ready to talk about his point total or his rebound total. I'm getting ready to talk about how he inspired his teammates. He had, in that first and second quarter, you and I, we watching the game and we watching George Hill miss layups. We watching Jeff Green miss shots. We like, can somebody please step up and help this man? What I saw LeBron James do from a leadership standpoint, he found a way to nurse his other teammates back to health, get their confidence right, and get them to a point where they can go out and compete and play in the game. His leadership was on display more so than his shot-making ability was on display. And that's what I see that he's able to do that very few others have been able to do in all game, and that's inspire others to play better and to play better than their petrified self that we saw that first, second quarter against Boston.
Isiah Thomas, before I let you get on out of here, I'd be remiss in bringing this up. You and I, we are going to have it out when we see each other face to face because it's going to let. I can't wait either. The blasphemy that came out of your mouth, the other day. Let me tell you something. You sat up there and you said LeBron James, better all-around player. LeBron James over Michael Jordan. Here's my position, and I'll deal with you more in depth when I see you face to face. But here's the deal, Isiah Thomas. My thing is, Jeff Van Gundy, you guys have disrespected your own era. See, to me, it's not about just the talent. It's about the competition. And when you consider what Jordan had to go through in his road to prosperity, that's nothing compared to, LeBron James' road does not compare to that. There wasn't bad boy Pistons and bad boy Knicks and everybody else in between that LeBron had to encounter. How do you, of all people, the leader of the bad boys, negate to bring that up? How does that happen?
So this is what I'm going to say to you. In every sport, okay, in every sport, and in life in general, we always hope and pray that the next generation is better, right? There was one time where we couldn't say Tom Brady was better than Joe Montana. There was one time in baseball you couldn't say that this player was better than the other. In basketball, we are not frozen at Jordan. So you have to allow your mind to think that there can be somebody that come along and is better. When Wilt Chamberlain came along, we never thought that there would be anybody better than him. Then Kareem came along. Now Kareem passed Wilt Chamberlain. Okay, when Dr. J was there, we never thought we would see anything better than Dr. J. Then Larry Bird showed up, and we said, okay, well, Larry Bird's better. When Oscar Robertson was at his peak, we never thought we'd see anything better than Oscar Robertson. Okay, then Magic Johnson came along. Okay, now we're talking about Michael Jordan. And what I'm seeing as an all-around basketball player, rebounding, passing, assisting, shooting, leading, this guy as an all-around basketball player is a better basketball player than Michael Jordan. Now, that's not taking anything away from Michael Jordan.
I know.
Because we're only talking about two of them. It ain't like you're talking about 50 of them. It's only two people in the world that we are talking about these two. And I'm just saying, when you look at it, right, pound for pound, one guy's bigger, faster, stronger, shoots better, rebound better, and, is breaking all the records.
And I guess, but listen to what I'm saying, Isaiah. And listen, on its face, based on that argument, I don't think we can deny that. My issue with you is if I'm going in a park, all right, and I'm playing against Joe Blow, I might drop 40. But if I do it against Isiah Thomas, that's a different ball game. I got to take into account the level of competition, and I don't think that's what you're doing. I'm running out of time, but I can't wait to see you about this one. I can't wait to see you about this one.
I'll leave you with this.
Go ahead.
If you put LeBron James with Phil Jackson in the triangle, he would score just as much and have just as much success. And I'm going to leave you one more.
No, he would not.
No.
Not in crunch time. He wouldn't do it. Not back in the day.
Who was LeBron James' teacher and coach? Who taught this guy how to play basketball? Every coach I had is in the Hall of Fame. High school, college, NBA. Every coach Michael Jordan has had in the Hall of Fame. Every coach Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has had in the Hall of Fame. Who the hell taught LeBron James how to play basketball?
That is a good argument.
This guy is a freak of nature, and he is the Einstein of all generations. From
that's a great argument.
And
that's a great argument about the coaching. You got me there. I won't even try to dispute that. But I'm not going to ignore those first 9-10 years of his career. I will see you when I see you, Isiah Thomas. I'll be out there. I'm on my way out there.
You got to talk about Jordan's first 8-9 years of his career too.
We can do that. We can do that.
I think the Pistons was capping at. You know what?
That's right. It was the Pistons, which a quality of team LeBron has never gone against. You just made my point. Isaiah, I will deal with you later, my man. I'll be out in San Francisco tonight, man. I'll catch you later.
All right, love you, man.
Same here, bro. Isiah Thomas, NBA TV, NBA analyst for TNT and NBA TV, Hall of Famer, all-time 50 greatest player, two-time champion, former executive and coach with the Knicks and the Toronto Raptors. The list goes on and on right here with Stephen A. He did make some damn good points. He really, really did. More of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio, coming at you as I love to do every day over the airways of ESPN Radio, 250 plus markets across the United States of America, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80. Few stories coming your way. Before I get back into the NBA Finals, a little more than 24 hours away from the NBA Finals. We'll get to your phone calls in just a second. Just want to tip y'all off for a couple of other stories that you need to know about. Several NFL owners said in depositions that President Donald Trump factored into conversations about how to handle protest during the national anthem, the Wall Street Journal has reported. While testifying as part of the Colin Kaepernick collusion case, Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones said Trump spoke with him about the anthem. This is a very winning, strong issue for me. Jones said Donald Trump told him during a phone call, tell everybody, meaning all the owners, you can't win this one. This one lifts me, end quote. The Wall Street Journal also reported that Miami Dolphins owner Stephen Ross testified that New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft has also discussed the anthem with Trump. While at an Alabama rally in September, Trump, if y'all remember, blasted NFL players, who knelt during the anthem. He said owners should pull players who kneel from games and referred to a player who protested during the anthem as a son of a bee. That comment drew a wide reaction across the NFL, leading to additional protests before the following Sunday's game. Ross testified that Trump's comments, quote, changed the dialogue, end quote. And Houston Texans owner Bob McNair acknowledged that the protests were financially hurting teams, according to the Journal. Ross made similar comments to the New York Daily News in March when he told the newspaper that all Dolphins players would stand for the national anthem. The owner said he became against kneeling when he felt that the message from the players was being interpreted as anti-military. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and Kraft are also among the people who have been deposed in the case. I just read excerpts from an article on ESPN.com. Look, if you're Colin Kaepernick and the case is about collusion, well, really, you only need two people. And if you got owners speaking with one another and acknowledging to one another that they spoke to the president, and you have somebody like Jerry Jones on the record saying he spoke to the president, okay, then chances are he spoke to other owners as well, which is where collusion will come into play. This is getting really, really ugly. And, you know, Torrey Smith and his comments, respect the brother, respectfully disagree. He talks about Eric Reed and Colin Kaepernick looking like villains. No, they don't. If anything, they've been martyred. The owners, pick your adjective. I mean, cowardly, hypocritical, phony, greedy. I mean, what word you want to use? The fact of the matter is they don't look good because they didn't collectively bargain this, make sure it got inserted into the collective bargaining agreement with the players. That's how you handle a situation like this. To operate unilaterally as a group, meaning the owners, and keep the Players Association at bay while doing this, I think is a disastrous move. A disastrous move for the owners. The issue of collusion is still front and center. The individual player who remains in the locker room will end up facing the same consequences for his actions as Eric Reed and Colin Kaepernick. So it begs the question, why is the Players Association, why have they not filed an unfair labor practice for failure to bargain in good faith over the new policy? That's what DeMaurice Smith and the Players Association should be doing. File an unfair labor practice lawsuit against the owners. One would argue that. And who knows? You talk about DeMaurice Smith here. He's always looking for an excuse to go to court against Roger Goodell. This is not going anywhere. This is getting uglier. And ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you this, and I want to know if you feel like I do on this matter. I think this NFL season has an opportunity to be worse than last year because of all of this noise. And God help you if the president decides to come out and speak about it again. God help him. And we can't put it past Donald Trump not to. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. We got that to talk about. We got the conference finals that just took place. We got the NBA finals, Cleveland against Golden State, part 4. We got the whole Brian Colangelo burner account story. And, of course, Isiah Thomas with his blasphemy about MJ compared to LeBron, even though he did make pretty damn good arguments. I can't even front about it. Austin and Philly, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Oh, no way. Hey, Stephen, thanks for taking me. We love you in Philly because you keep it straight up.
Thank you, man.
So my question is, even if this isn't real, I want to know how this whole Brian Colangelo issue can affect the cohesion of this young team that we love. And also, I heard you on the First Take this morning say that it would only tarnish Brian and it would only be his embarrassment. But how does this tarnish the franchise, especially when we're looking at free agent pursuits like LeBron James?
Well, again, that comes down to how you deal with Colangelo. You investigate the matter and you find out whether it was true or not. I believe if this is proven to be true, Brian Colangelo will be fired as president of basketball operations for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Who do we bring in, though? Like Dave Griffin? Or what do we do here?
Look, man, I don't know. I mean, damn, the story just broke this morning. You're not thinking about who the hell the success is going to be. I'm thinking about whether or not Brian Colangelo is going to keep his job. And I'm telling you right now, if this is found to be true, he's going to get fired. I'm telling you what I know. He's going to get fired if this is found to be true. Make no mistake about it. You just can't have this associated with your organization. But if this is true, and Brian Colangelo says he isn't, and I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt, but if this is true, I will tell you this. This ain't a blemish on the 76ers. This is a blemish on him. There's a blemish on him. This is not an organizational act. This would be him. And I don't think the Sixers organization should or will be held accountable for that unless they do nothing about it if it's found to be true. Appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Let's go to Marcus in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, man?
What's up, man? How are we forgetting about Kobe Bryant and not even comparing Kobe Bryant to LeBron to see if he's even better. We're talking about a person that been to the championship 7 times, and that's 5-2 in his record, with a man that's been to the finals 8 times, but has 5 losses on his record.
I can tell you this.
Him to Michael Jordan.
I can tell you why. I can tell you why, Marcus. You know what you're missing in all of this? First of all, eye test tells you in terms of all-around game, because Kobe was an assassin and the closest thing to MJ, which MJ says. That's true. But you know what's ultimately being held against Kobe Bryant? Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Shaq.
Who?
Shaq. Yep. The first 3 rings were with Shaq, which was why Kobe was willing to leave before Buss traded Shaq and handed the Lakers to Kobe. Because Kobe did not want to be forever synonymous with Shaq. He wanted to march, he wanted to mark his own path. And he wanted to show that he could do it without Shaq, because he knew that history would chronicle he always had Shaq at his disposal. LeBron has never had a teammate like Shaq. Let me ask you this question, Marcus, in all fairness, because we all love Kobe and we all think Kobe is one of the all-time greats. And you know I love my man. Here's my question to you. What would LeBron have done with Shaq?
Probably would have won more than what Kobe done. Kobe won with him. And he probably would have put his pride to the side.
Then you just answered your own question. I got to run. I appreciate the call. Francisco in New York, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Francisco.
Hey, Stephen A. Big fan.
Thank you, man. Go ahead.
I wanted to speak about what Isiah Thomas just spoke about. I've been thinking about this for so many years, saying the same thing. Like, you always talk about how LeBron James, he wouldn't be able to compete with the guys back in the day.
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. What I said is that the road to prosperity would have been difficult. I ask you, I'm going to let you go on, Francisco, but I ask you this question, okay? Are you ready for this question?
Go ahead.
In that era, does LeBron James go to 8 straight finals?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay.
I can't say
all right.
that.
As long as you're willing to admit that, I'm good. Go ahead. Keep going.
Saying is, LeBron James is Scottie Pippen's body, but more athletic.
I agree.
If Scottie Pippen was able to survive those eras, you don't think a monster like how you call LeBron James a physical specimen like LeBron wouldn't be able to survive in those eras?
No, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think that but you got to remember, I'm not questioning whether or not LeBron could have survived in the era. I'm not even questioning whether or not LeBron would have been a star in the era. I think LeBron would have been a star in any era. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not questioning that at all, Francisco. Here's what I'm saying. If you recall those first years where LeBron lacked that mental toughness to get him over the hump, because mentally speaking, he just wasn't there. This is a guy that gave up the winning shot in an exhibition game because he just didn't want that kind of moment. He wasn't confident at the free throw line. He wasn't confident with his jump shot. He wasn't confident in terms of just that mental makeup that you got to have, that the Kobes and the MJs and others had. I'm saying there's a legitimate argument that could have been made that he may have been derailed before he got to the point of greatness that he's at right now. MJ and Kobe and them came into the league with that. They just had to fine-tune their game, and they also had to learn to adapt and get some help. LeBron, it was all mental with him, and that's the difference. I don't know if he would have been able to overcome that in the old school era. He may have been able to overcome it enough to be a star in the league, but in terms of being the guy that he is now, I don't know if he gets to that point, having to go through that old era. That's my contention.
One last thing, though, I completely agree with what I say. If LeBron James had the opportunity to go to college and stuff like that and learn from a good Hall of Fame coach, or something like that, you don't think he'll be somewhere way better than the player he is now?
Well, that's the greatest argument that I've ever heard on behalf of LeBron James. The argument that Isiah Thomas made, that every great player had great coaching. Who the hell coached LeBron James? That is the most profound significant, poignant argument that anyone has ever made on behalf of LeBron James. Ever in life. Ever.
To get better experience from a better coach. That's what I see him going to Miami as a trip to going to college, you know?
Okay. I got you. I appreciate the call, though. Thank you so much. Let's go to Dante in California. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, Dante?
Hey, what's up, Stephen A. Smith? Thank you so much for taking my call. I had a couple of questions I wanted to ask about the conference finals and the finals. But first, I had to 100% agree with everything that you said about the whole national anthem issue with the NFL. Every adjective that you used for the owners were right on point, accurate, completely devoid of hyperbole, in my opinion. Like you, I question what action and why they haven't taken it that the NFLPA is going to take. And as a longtime football fan who's watched football more than any other sport combined in my adult life, as soon as this decision dropped on this new anthem policy, one of the first thoughts in my mind was this season is going to fail spectacularly compared to last season because this. And I am not, for one, going to watch a single minute of professional football this season because of the actions that the owners took. Just want to say that I agree with you 100%. Concerning the finals and the conference finals, my question for the finals is, on a scale of 0 to 100%, Stephen A., how close to perfection do the Cavaliers, especially LeBron supporting cast, has to play to even threaten the Warriors in this series? And concerning the conference finals, how much blame do you put on a league-wide trend concerning the proliferation of the three-point shot for the losses for Boston and Houston, respectively, in 2 games conference finals?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to put anything on a three-point shot. It's a part of the game. There's nothing wrong with it. You can either make them or miss them. It's a skill. And any time that you want to highlight a skill in the sport of professional basketball, I'm not allergic to that. I'm not averse to that. I don't have any issue with it whatsoever. It's not a problem. As it pertains to, what Cleveland will have to do to win this finals, I think that LeBron James has to be the superstar that he was last year, and he's got to get perimeter play from J.R. Smith, the Kyle Korvers of the world, the Jeff Greens of the world, Kevin Love, whenever he comes back. And Kevin Love was allowed to skip his media obligations today because he's still with that concussion protocol going on. So it's a big deal. He's still not cleared to play in game 1. It's a problem, but you need all the help you can get. It's not going to be enough for Cleveland to dictate pace or rely on the greatness of LeBron James or even get contributions from the Tristan Thompsons or Jeff Greens of the world. In order for the Cleveland Cavaliers to have a legitimate shot at Golden State, they have to be able to hit perimeter. They have to be able to hit three-point shots. They have to be able to do it. Otherwise, they don't stand a chance in my estimation. They just don't. Marty in Vegas, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Marty?
Stephen, don't be soft on Isiah. You gave him all that introduction of how amazing he was, a 2-time NBA champion. But there's one thing that you didn't say. You didn't say the starting point guard on the Dream Team. And you know as well as I know that deep resentment will always carry over in Isaiah's view of always searching for a player greater than Michael Jordan. And that is a fact that you cannot get away from. You can talk about
Stop. Hold on. You're talking about the 92 Olympics in Barcelona when Michael Jordan and others had something to do with Isiah Thomas being left off of the Dream Team in favor of John Stockton, correct?
It may be. Whoever the person may be.
Marty, did I not just ask you a question? Answer the question. My listeners don't know what the hell you're talking about. You can't just come on and talk. You got to make sure you clarify. Is that what you're talking about?
I think Isiah has a resentment toward not being on that team.
Goodbye. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't get to talk on my show without talking to me. You have to listen to me. I asked the man the question 3 times. Now, since he wouldn't answer, I'll answer. If you're talking about the 92 Olympics, yes, Isiah Thomas never, ever will let go of the resentment that he probably has towards Michael Jordan because of that. But Michael Jordan wasn't the only factor in Isiah Thomas being left off to that team because of his relationship with MJ. The NBA had a lot to do with Isiah not being on that team as well. And Isiah has to let that go, because if he didn't let that go, he wouldn't have a job with NBA TV and TNT right now. Let's keep that in mind. Jay in Long Island, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A. I got to say, Isiah Thomas is wrong, man. He's wrong. And the reason why I say he's wrong about the Phil Jackson comment, and I'm tired of people breaking up Phil Jackson when it comes to Michael Jordan, because Phil Jackson wasn't Phil Jackson when Michael Jordan got him. He was just like Tyrone Lue. We keep disrespecting these coaches. Phil Jackson had no rings. He was not a head coach in the NBA. So for us, so for the people to keep saying, "Oh, LeBron James never had Phil Jackson," okay, Michael Jordan never had Eric Spoelstra, Tyrone Lue. That's a stupid argument to me, because Phil Jackson wasn't a great coach. Nobody knew who he was. People wasn't knocking down his door to get the great Phil Jackson at that time. Because if he was that much of a guru, he wouldn't have waited that long to even get the Bulls job.
Well, wait a minute. That's not entirely accurate. And here's what I mean by what I'm saying. You're right in terms of Phil wasn't Phil at the moment in time, but he did prove what he was. So if you're Isiah and you're deferring to something historically, you're essentially alluding to the quality of coach that one has. One could make that argument on behalf of LeBron James, because who has been the consistent coach in his tenure? Eric Spoelstra for the 4 years in Miami. True. Mike Brown for a couple of years. Paul Silas for a year. What is it? Who was the coach that succeeded Ty Lue? All right. From David Blatt. You had him. Stuff like that. What I'm saying to you is that that's not Isiah telling you about forecasting. He's saying, as we reflect back on those coaches, you know who they are compared to who other players had. That's all you're saying.
Disrespectful. And the reason why I think it's disrespectful, because I think Spoelstra was a great coach, and no coach wins without great talent. And he had great talent, and he won. He went to 4 straight finals. Popovich never went to 4 straight finals. Tyrone Lue going through his 3rd straight final. Phil Jackson has never won without great talent. He has the greatest player, people say, is Michael Jordan, and then he has some people say the second greatest player.
But what exactly are you disagreeing about, though? I don't understand what you're disagreeing. It sounds to me like you're agreeing with Isiah Thomas. It doesn't sound to me like you're disagreeing.
No, I'm disagreeing with he's trying to make it seem like the facto was Phil. He never played with somebody like Phil Jackson, and I'm saying is, when you can't make excuses for LeBron bouncing from place to place to place to place when he had a great coach and Eric Spoelstra. So we got to take the Phil Jackson argument out.
But here's what you're missing. He's not making an excuse for LeBron. What he's saying is that LeBron never had those coaches, but he is still the player that he is. Look at him perform. Who taught him how to play? Nobody did. He's not making an excuse for LeBron. He's saying that despite those questions, look at how great LeBron is.
I'm saying is he had those coaches. To me, if you're telling me with the talent and what Spoelstra did with that team, I'm telling you that what he did was comparable to what Phil did, what Popovich did. These guys. So I'm saying that these guys are comparable.
So in other words, you're saying he had coaching. So in other words, Isaiah's wrong because he had coaching. In other words, don't sit there and act like LeBron didn't have coaching. He had coaching. That's why, don't think he hasn't been coached. That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. If you look at when they was in the finals, and you look at and the difference between, you look at Spoelstra never got addicted to one player. Like if you look at Pat Riley, he got addicted to Starks. And if you look, when they played the Spurs that year, when the Heat won, if Thomas was off, he's like, okay, Thomas, you hit 7 threes last game. You sitting your butt down. He put Mike Miller in. He'll put
I got it, my brother. You don't have all day, bro. You don't have all day. I got your point. I hear what you're saying. He had some coaching because I like Spoelstra. So he had coaching. I got it. Appreciate the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Back with your calls in more in a minute. You're listening live to Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
I'm a one-trick pony. Literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter. When Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la. Aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Mike in Denver. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Mike.
How you doing, man? I want to get into the Colangelo thing real fast, and then one of us comes after that. This is a bad look for Philadelphia, and like you said, not the organization, because this is an individual debacle right here. And if they don't do nothing about it, if they come to find out that it's true, then you have a problem with the organization. Right now, we got to give them the benefit of the doubt, because you know how with social media is today, any kind of thing get out there before you got to really know what's going on. And like I say, it's really bad with the draft coming up, and then with the free agents out there, we got to look at that too. The other point I want to get on is this right here, Stephen A. I know that everybody ain't got the credentials of being a journalist or analyst, but that don't mean they don't know what they're talking about. This thing with Chris Paul is driving me crazy for one reason. No one is taking into account what Steve Kerr said, and I think we need to listen to him more than anybody else.
Which is what? What did he say?
If Andre Iguodala don't miss no games, it's 0-5. Whether Chris Paul on the floor or not. Do you believe that?
No. I don't believe that Golden State would have won in 5 games. I
really don't believe that, Stephen?
I really believe the series is going to at least 6.
Okay. Well, maybe it's stretched to 6. But if it even stretched to 6, at that point in time, there's no way Golden State is never in danger. Because this right here, I know, and we know the game, but just like with Chris Paul out there being the floor general, what people fail to realize is this right here. Andre Iguodala is almost like that glue on offense with him as well, because now with him on the floor, you can't just, if you lay off him, he do have the ability to penetrate and kick out. You lose that with Kevin Looney.
Listen, I think you're right, but I think you're psychoanalyzing it a little bit too much and in the wrong way. Here's what you're missing, Mike. Golden State is not the same defensively on a continuous basis. They can amp it up at a moment's notice, no question about that. And they put you on your heels because of the long-range arsenal that they have at their disposal. That is true. But what you're missing is how much Houston improved defensively and how Houston got up in them. P.J. Tucker, Trevor Ariza, Gordon and those boys, and to a lesser degree even Harden, who doesn't like to play defense so much. And, of course, Chris Paul. They defend. And they got up in Golden State and made them uncomfortable. If you remember those 2 fourth quarters when Durant shot 1 of 9 and 0 of 5 from 3-point range, primarily most of the time Steve Kerr had him playing with his back to the basket. When you look at a guy like Kevin Durant, he was uncomfortable. Clay was uncomfortable for a couple of games. Steph Curry was a 2-point scorer instead of a 3-point scorer in 3 of the 7 games. Let's not forget that, Mike.
I'm not forgetting that, Stephen A. But like you said, okay, even if it stretches to 6, then that doesn't take us to a 7th game, and then at no point in time in the series, Houston probably don't ever lead the series. So I think that's where all of the hype come at. If Chris Paul was playing, I
think the hype is warranted, man. I think the hype is warranted because Chris Paul's a pit bull defensively. Plus, he can help you offensively. I don't think you can underestimate him. I don't think it would have been enough to beat Golden State, but I do think it would have given them a chance, especially since you see how they play without him. And when a guy like Isiah Thomas is telling you, yo, this guy, you got a 17-point lead with Chris Paul on the court, that's going to be a different ballgame. Remember what they did. They got blown out in Game 3 by 41. And then Game 4, they came right back and beat Golden State. Let's not forget that.
I'm a firm believer in that. If Chris Paul was playing up 17, Golden State don't win. I'm a firm believer in that. But at the same time, like you say, and I don't want to keep hopping on this, like you said, but we still neglecting the fact that you don't have Iguodala on the floor, Stephen A. So that takes away from Golden State how they move the ball and the things I don't
think it takes much away from them offensively. Iguodala's impact is defensively. That's the big impact. It's defensively.
Yeah, I know he's not going to hurt you offensive far as his scoring, right, but I'm just talking about his ability to keep the floor open, because if you allow him to drive, he can score if you allow him to drive, and then ability to kick out because he's done at a certain time.
Ultimately, Mike, it comes down to this, bro, because I got to run. I appreciate the call. It wouldn't have gone 7 games probably. It would have went 6. With this Houston team, I think it would have went 6. Sharpie in New York, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
What's up, Stephen A? Huge fan. What's up, Stephen A? Huge fan, man.
Thanks a lot, bro. Go ahead.
Just had a quick question. If Michael Jordan, in his prime, played on this Cleveland team besides LeBron, how far did they go, man?
Almost just as far. Do you know why I say that?
Why?
Because of today's rules. Back in the day, you know what this Cleveland Cavaliers team is with Boston instead of LeBron? I'm sorry, with MJ instead of LeBron. They're the Chicago Bulls team that Jordan dropped 63 on, that they dropped 63-4 against Boston, but they lost to Boston. That's what this team is under those old rules. Under these new rules, Jordan could have carried them.
But if LeBron was on the Chicago team instead of Jordan, did they win 6 rings still?
Say what?
If LeBron was playing for Chicago instead of Jordan, do they still win those 6 rings?
No. Maybe 4, but not 6.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate the call. Danny in New York, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A., let me say I'm on the phone with the MJ, the GOAT. Let me repeat, the MJ, the GOAT of sports analysis. It's my privilege. Thanks for taking my call, Stephen A.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Go ahead, man.
Stephen A., I'm talking about this blasphemy that Isiah Thomas came on, the Detroit. This Isiah Thomas that MJ had to change his body to be able to come back and put it on him, and he's disrespecting the GOAT. I want to talk about it from a different – everybody talks statistics, and we know what the stats are. We know what the numbers LeBron's putting up. We know what Jordan did. But let's talk about the culture of the game. Let's talk about the fact that, I grew up watching MJ, and I still hit the courts every now. So from then till now, I'm hitting the courts with these same young kids that's playing ball. And there's never been an era from then till now where you have kids still pulling up saying Jordan. I would hear kids out here saying LeBron. Jordan changed the way the game looked. He made the game look. He's basketball as we know it. Basically, the fadeaway is hanging in the air for 15 seconds, changing directions in every which way possible to score the ball, taking the game at the end every single time, taking charge at the end to make or miss. All
right, my man. You sound like you're trying to be an announcer now. I just need you to make your point, bro, because you done made it. Go ahead.
My point, Stephen A., is at the end of the day, LeBron will never change the face of the game. Curry has changed the face of the game now more than LeBron will ever, because you got kids out here shooting.
I don't know about that. I think that's a strong statement to make, man. I will say this to you. If LeBron wouldn't change the game, you know why he wouldn't? Because folks know everybody can't be 6'9", 270. Whereas Steph Curry is a lanky, slight 6'3". So you look at him in a different kind of way, like you looked at Iverson, but similar in this fashion. I could be them. In other words, you marvel at them, but they look regular. Allen Iverson 6 feet, Curry 6'3". They ain't 6'9", 260, 270. That's the difference. I got to run. I appreciate the call. Your calls to close out the show in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Back with the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. Let's go to Sean in Philly. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, Sean.
Hey, Stephen, how are you today?
I'm all right. Go ahead, buddy. You're live on the air.
Here we go. I think the Sixers have turned into the NFL, the NBA. They're using this as best they can to cover up the fact that they extended Brett Brown yesterday for 3 years, which puts them in the driver's seat not to get Paul George, because I don't want Paul George, because I don't think he's effective enough, especially with the talent in Philly.
I think
he's go get Kawhi Leonard.
I think he's a perfect fit for Philadelphia, A, and B. why would I want to trade my assets to get a Kawhi Leonard when I can stand pat and keep those assets and add Paul George? That's number one. Number two, Philadelphia is not the one that put out this story. They're reacting to the story that was put out by The Ringer and has gained national attention. Number three, I will agree with you, however. I'm not a person who believes that Brett Brown should have been fired. But I do believe he did blow those first 3 games against Boston. And I did raise my eyebrow and get taken aback a bit by a 3-year extension. I'm not saying I would have fired them, but Sean, like you, I'm suspect, and I would have waited. I certainly wouldn't have gave him a 3-year extension.
I wouldn't have done it in the middle of the offseason. I would have waited half a year, and if he was 15 games above 500 at the 40-game mark, then I would have given it to him.
Okay. Appreciate the call, buddy. Thank you so much. John in Jersey, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, John, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A., what's up?
I'm good. Talk to me. What's up?
Question. You know how they say, you live by a 3, you die by a 3?
Yes, sir.
For me, for James Harden, I think he lived by the ref and died with the refs. And what I mean by that is, remember his post-game interview, he was talking about how some calls weren't made. James Harden, his game relies so much on the refs. And you tell yourself, well, every player, relies on the ref. But James Harden is different. You can't even blink without knowing where your hands are with James Harden because he's so smart of getting the calls with the refs that, he gets them off. And his game relies so much on that. So what happened in Game 7 was...
I agree with you. He's a droid at getting fouled, but in the same breath, his handle is nasty and his jump shot is pretty damn good. Let's not act like it's just all the refs.
True. Well, in Game 7, the calls weren't being made. But he kept trying to get them, and that's why he eventually, he was gassed out.
Yeah, but where you're wrong is that he had to do that because he knew his 3 wasn't falling.
That's true. All
right.
One last thing I want to say is...
Hurry up. Go ahead.
I got Golden State in 4.
Okay. Sweet. Okay. It's possible, but I still think they'll probably win in 5 or 6. Let's go to David in Miami real quick. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, David.
Okay, your argument with Isiah against LeBron is that his competition in the East provides him with a far easier road to the finals, especially when you consider today's game is far less physical. I agree with that. Therefore, the fact that he got to 8 straight finals isn't enough to push him past Jordan. I also agree with that. But understand this. Jordan was a killer. He was a 6'6" dominating player in a big man's league. LeBron is the big man in today's game, and we know that LeBron doesn't have that killer instinct and jaw-dropping skills that Jordan has, but that's because it doesn't appeal to us. Tim Duncan was the same victim of that. But what he lacks in jaw-dropping skills, he makes up for it in balance. He's more balanced of a player, and he does more things.
I gotta run, but David, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. David, that's a good analogy. I like that, David. Call back when I have more time. I like that, David. That's not bad. That's not bad. A balance of skill, whereas Jordan was a killer and was a killer of big men, whereas LeBron is one. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Night of the NBA Finals. Speak to you then.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.